Now, human heart, it acts as the central pump. Okay. Now, the heart is the muscular pumping organ. Okay. Where it is located in the thoracic cavity between the lungs, slightly left, which is protected by pericardium fluid. So, this pericardial fluid reduces the friction. There are four chambers in the heart. What are all those? Right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, and left ventricle. So, atria will receive the blood and ventricles will pump the blood. Okay. Now, why left ventricle is thickest? Because left ventricle pumps blood into the entire body that requires the greatest force. So, hence its walls are the thickest. Now, let's see about the walls. Walls are one-way flow. So, these walls ensures unidirectional flow. Without walls, the blood would flow backwards. What is SAN pacemaker? So, SAN is nothing but sinoatrial node. Okay. So, this sinoatrial node automatically generates the impulse. So, what is the heart rate for per minute? It is 70 to 75 per minute. And this determines the rhythm, and hence it is called as the pacemaker. The duration of cardiac cycle for one complete flow is 0.8 seconds. Now, what is joint diastole, atrial systole, ventricular systole, and ventricular diastole? Okay. Now, let's see joint diastole. Joint diastole is nothing but all chambers will be relaxed. Blood will enter atria. And then atrial systole. What happens in the atrial systole? Atria will contract and blood will move to the ventricles. And what is ventricular systole? Ventricular systole will be contracted forcefully and atrial ventricular walls will be closed. So this will reflect in lub sound. Okay, semilunar walls are open and blood enters the arteries. So now what happens in the ventricular diastole? Ventricles will be relaxed. Semilunar walls will be closed. So dub sound will be heard. Now cycle repeats continuously. Okay. Let me recall this complete circulation once again. Okay. Now the most important thing that you have to keep in mind is when lub and when tub is heard. Okay. Now when lub is heard, then AV wall gets closed. And when dub is heard, when semilunar walls are closed. Okay. And these are the most important events in the circulation. And now in the joint diastole, atria will be relaxed and ventricles are also relaxed. Okay. And from the blood vein, the blood will move to the atria. Okay. And AV wall will remain open. And blood will passively flow into the ventricles. Will start to flow into the ventricles. And semilunar wall will be remain closed. Okay. And this is the filling phase of the heart. And now comes the arterial systole. What happens in the arterial systole? I have mentioned here, atria will get contracted. The remaining blood is pushed into the ventricles and ventricles will become completely filled with blood. Okay. And after this, atria will be relaxed. Okay. And now, ventricular systole. What happens during ventricular systole? Ventricles will be contracted forcefully because this pressure inside the ventricles increases. The first event, AV walls will get closed. And why do they close? To prevent the backflow of blood into the atria. Okay. And this closure of AV wall will be producing lub sound. And next comes the ventricular pressure increases. So semilunar wall will remain open and blood is pumped into the arteries. Okay. And what happens in the ventricular diastole? The ventricles will be relaxed and the ventricular pressure will be suddenly decreased. Blood present in the arteries tends to move backward. Okay, so to prevent this, semilunar wall will be closed. So this will be reflecting in the dub sound, and then the cycle repeats. So now, what is cardiac output? Cardiac output is nothing but the blood pumped by each ventricle per minute. Okay. Now, what is stroke volume? Stroke volume is blood pumped by one ventricle in one beat. And what is heart rate? Beats per minute. So now let me take an example of calculating the cardiac output. Okay. So cardiac output's formula involves stroke volume along with the heart rate. Let me take stroke volume as 70 ml per beat and heart rate as 72 beats per minute. And when these two gets multiplied, I am getting around 5040 ml per minute. That is nothing but 5 liter per minute. And during heavy exercise, cardiac output can increase up to 20 to 30 liter per minute. So if I have to say in one line, one beat gives the stroke volume and many beats gives the cardiac output. Now let's see about ECG. ECG is nothing but electrocardiogram, records electrical activity. So there are two types of waves. One is P wave and another one is T wave, and the next is QRS complex. So what is P wave? P wave will be representing atrial depolarization and QRS complex will be reflecting ventricular depolarization, and T wave will be reflecting in ventricular repolarization. These are all the three terms that you have to keep in mind. That is more than enough. Okay. Now let us see about double circulation. Okay. This is also the important topic of the lesson. Now, in humans, blood flows through the heart twice during one complete circulation, right? So that is called as double circulation. Okay. And now, it includes two circulation, that is pulmonary circulation and systematic circulation. Okay. And this system keeps oxygenated and deoxygenated blood separate, making circulation highly efficient. Okay. And why it is called as double circulation? Because in one complete round, from the heart, it travels to the lungs and to the heart. And in another circulation from heart to the body and to the heart. So blood enters the heart two times in one single cycle. Let us see about pulmonary circulation now. Okay. In the pulmonary circulation, we have already seen that the path is from right ventricle to lungs to left atrium. So here I have to explain step by step. Okay. So the right ventricle pumps the deoxygenated blood. The right ventricle contains blood rich in CO2 and poor in oxygen, and it pumps this blood into the pulmonary artery. Okay. And blood will reach the lungs. And inside the lungs, carbon dioxide diffuses out and oxygen will diffuse into the blood. Okay. And this process is called as oxygenation. And next, oxygenated blood will reach the heart. Which part of the heart? Left atrium. And now what is the purpose of pulmonary circulation? That is, oxygenate the blood and remove the carbon dioxide. So pulmonary circulation mainly involves in the gas exchange. Okay, the next thing that we are going to see here is about systematic circulation. Okay, so what is the pathway of systematic circulation? From left ventricle to body to right atrium. Okay, to tell it simply, from left ventricle to aorta to body tissues and then to vena cava and then it reaches the right atrium. Okay, now I will be explaining step by step. The left ventricle will pump oxygenated blood. Left ventricle has thick muscular walls because it pumps blood into the entire body. We have already studied that now. So blood enters the aorta, the largest artery. From left ventricle to aorta. Okay. Aorta is nothing but the biggest artery. And now, blood will reach the body tissues. So, blood will deliver oxygen, nutrients, along with the hormones required to all the body cells. So cells use this oxygen for respiration. And the next thing is deoxygenated blood will return to the heart. Okay, from the body tissues, it will be returning to the heart. And after the exchange, the blood will become deoxygenated, right? The blood has become oxygenated and all the oxygen, nutrients and hormones from the blood has been delivered to all the body tissues, and from the body tissue, the carbon dioxides are collected. So blood becomes deoxygenated and returns through superior and inferior vena cava. Okay? Yes. And this is how the blood will enter the right atrium. What is the purpose of systematic circulation? The main function is to supply oxygen and nutrients to the tissues, and it will remove waste like carbon dioxide. Okay, and now I would like to recall the complete flow of the double circulation, that is deoxygenated blood from the body enters right atrium and to the right ventricle and then to lungs, and from lungs left atrium, left ventricle, and then moves to body tissues and back to right atrium. This process continues for every single circulation. What is the significance of double circulation? So, double circulation will actually prevent the mixing of blood. Oxygenated and deoxygenated blood remains completely separate. This ensures tissue receive fully oxygenated blood and efficient oxygen supply. So, the cells will receive more oxygen. This improves cellular respiration and ATP production. And now, high metabolic efficiency. Due to double circulation, it will support active movement, brain function, and continuous organ activity. And then supports warm blood nature. What is warm blood nature? Maintaining consistent body temperature. And maintaining the consistent body temperature will require high energy and efficient oxygen supply. So double circulation helps to achieve all of these. Now let us learn about heart regulation. The human heart is actually myogenic. What is myogenic? The heartbeat originates from cardiac muscle itself. The heart does not need external nerve stimulation for beating. Okay, during the sympathetic stimulation, the sympathetic nerve acts during stress and fear, exercise, and the emergency situation, which will be affecting in the heart rate. It is heartbeat that I have mentioned here, and increases the cardiac output and also increases the force of contraction. So this prepares the body for fight or flight. Okay. And now comes the parasympathetic stimulation. What happens during the parasympathetic stimulation? There will be decrease in heartbeat and slows the cardiac activity and also maintains the resting condition. Okay, and this parasympathetic activity is mainly controlled by vagus nerve. Okay, now let us look on to the disorders of circulatory system. The first one is hypertension. What is hypertension means? The persistent increase in blood pressure above the normal level. So what is the normal human blood pressure? It is 120 by 80 mmHg. So what is 120 and what is 80? 120 is systolic pressure and 80 is diastolic pressure. Okay, and what happens in the hypertension? When the hypertension happens, the heart will work very harder. Okay, arteries will experience excessive pressure and blood vessels gradually gets damaged. And this condition is called as hypertension. Along with the heart, of course, brain and kidneys will get damaged. So, what is the main cause of hypertension? They are stress, obesity, smoking, lack of exercise, and genetic factors, and some other causes also exist. Okay. And coronary artery. This disease is called as CAD. Okay. In this disease, the heart muscle receives oxygen through coronary artery. In coronary artery disease, fat, cholesterol, and calcium deposits accumulate in the artery walls. And this condition is called atherosclerosis. Okay. And in this condition, heart will receive very less oxygen. and blood flow will also be decreased. As a result, the heart muscle cannot function properly and risk of heart attack will get increased. And the major causes of this CAD is hypertension, diabetes, smoking, and stress, extra. Okay, and now what is angina? Angina pectoris. This is a severe chest pain caused due to the insufficient supply of oxygen. Okay, and the next thing comes is the heart failure. What is heart failure? Heart failure means the heart is unable to pump the sufficient blood, and it is also called as congestive heart failure. And heart failure is caused due to long-term hypertension, previous heart attacks, and all. So the symptoms of heart failure is shortness of breath and swelling in legs and fatigue, rapid heartbeat. All of these are the symptoms of heart failure. And then comes the cardiac arrest. What is cardiac arrest? Cardiac arrest means the heart suddenly stops pumping the blood, and it is an emergency condition and it may lead to death. And what is heart attack? Heart attack occurs when coronary artery blockage completely cuts off oxygen supply to a part of the heart muscle. So this may cause the death of cardiac tissue, and that is what I have mentioned here as a damage in heart muscle. Okay, we have completed body fluids and circulation. I hope you all like my explanation, and the next video will be the MCQs on this chapter. So stay tuned for the next video and do subscribe and support my channel. Thank you. Bye. Take care.